My name is Amy Lykofer, and I'm the president of the Federation of San Rafael Neighborhoods. As I mentioned earlier, this is our first in-person meeting for a while, and we're so happy you came and joined us on a rainy evening. So this is our topic tonight, and we really are grateful to you to have prolonged your day yet again. And you may be thinking a little bit creatively about how the county can interface with the neighborhoods in the county's largest city. And I got this from your website. Here's a picture of the map and of all of the supervisors. It was very helpful to me. I have to tell you, I have not spoken once with Eric Lucan, and I mean, that really helps you understand how this puzzle fits together. So go ahead next. So I just took this off of the website so you get a little bit of an idea of Dennis's background and you know, where he comes from and the kind of director he is. And as we know, he has a very, very geographically and socially diverse district. And we understand that, and it comes with its challenges, to say nothing of the distances. So welcome, Dennis. Mary Sackett, as you know, is the representative for sort of North San Rafael, if that's correct. And her background also very interesting, and she's an attorney and is very active. She has, you know, as you write, there are passions that are important to you, and that's part of what you do in your daily work. So this is our program. Each of them are just going to say a little bit, give you an update as to what's going on with the county, and then we'll open it up to questions. The questions are going to start, Richard Bernstein's going to be in charge of the questions, and he's starting with those that were sent in advance. And after that, we'll take your questions from the floor.
Ready? Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. First of all, I just want to thank you for your willingness to come out tonight, but almost all of you represent a neighborhood association in one way, shape, or form. And it's really such an important fabric of our community to have strong neighborhoods, strong community. You know, we can do many things at the county level, but we can't know who's next door to whom and who may need extra attention or care. And I think that's something that the neighborhood associations really bring. So I just want to say thank you for caring about your neighborhood and for really wanting to engage so we can figure out and always work on the best way to share messages so that you know, some of the work we're doing can be shared with your neighborhood. I wanted to just go over, so there are 5 members of the Board of Supervisors. 3 of us have parts of San Rafael. My district is essentially 2nd Street north to Lucas Valley, and then out around Peacock Gap, China Camp, Santa Benicia. So the unincorporated areas of my district are Lucas Valley, Santa Benicia, the patchwork along the Point San Pedro Road corridor in and out, and other little pockets. I can say I'm all in San Rafael, and Supervisor Rodoni can name the 12 places he represents. And then Supervisor Colbert has a little portion of Bret Hart.
Do you mind me just saying something? So Brian Colbert represents this area, and I want to tell you with profound apologies, it's my fault that he's not here as the representative for this area because I had his wrong email. And after I didn't hear back from him for a long time, I appealed to the other supervisors. And so I'm going to report back to him everything about this meeting. I'll probably send him the recording if it works. And just know that your concerns from this area will be met by his office. Go ahead, Mary.
So this year I'm president of the Board of Supervisors for another month or 2. And I just want to share with you what our big bucket priorities are on the board. First and foremost is affordable housing and homelessness, race equity, climate change and sea level rise, disaster preparedness, county infrastructure, sometimes boring but really, really important, and community and economic vitality, really looking at how do we support the economic engine in the communities across the county. You may have received a survey email over the last week, or maybe not, that came through your email, but one of the things that is going out is kind of a community survey to get the pulse of what people are thinking at this moment in time. And the community and economic vitality piece of our priorities was added just this last May as something we really wanted to focus on, what's our economy look like now and how do we ensure that we support it. Most of the businesses in Marin County are 3 to 8 people. We don't have manufacturing, we don't have a lot of big employers. It's healthcare and education are our big employers. And so how do we how do we support our workforce and also look for opportunities to grow our economic base within the county? And where's government's role in that as well? So I'll turn it over to Supervisor Rodoni.
Okay, thanks, Mary. I often think that San Rafael is one of the luckiest cities in Marin because you have 3 supervisors that represent you, where some cities only have one.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Very, very lucky, and I have a small part. Mine is District 4, and that represents 15,000 residents in southeast San Rafael. My district and Councilmember Glotti's align perfectly. That was intended when we did the redistricting because we really wanted to, one, give the community of southeast San Rafael a voice and combine them as well as we could as like communities, and also make it simple for those residents to understand that their council district and supervisor district were the same. Because often, and I know some of the questions tonight will go into this, people get confused. Do I go to the city? Do I go to the county? And in particular, some of our residents in East San Rafael are very confused about that because they don't have the resources to give them the information as much as all of us can find. So I'm really happy to represent East San Rafael. There's a huge alignment with my Hispanic district in West Marin, so I feel connected there. I have about 30% of my district that represent my population in my district that identify themselves as Hispanic. So it's a huge Hispanic population in District 4. So I'm really happy to represent them. And I'm happy to share San Rafael with Mary and Brian. You have great representatives that work really hard for you, and I'm pleased to say that we all work together really well. I thought we were thinking about what to present tonight, and so I kind of decided, well, let's start at the really, really high level. You may have heard that part of what the county is looking at right now is reorganizing itself a little bit. It started with changing the county executive position to a county executive position from a county administrator's office. Technically, it doesn't sound like much, but what it does mean is that the county executive has a lot more authority over each department, or under the county administrator. Actually, the Board of Supervisors were the ones that did the evaluation, department evaluations and stuff. The county executive did the day-to-day, but we were doing evaluations. It's really hard to evaluate someone when you're not working with them day-to-day. And so my board, when Matthew Heimel retired, decided we needed to sort of update our government and switch over to a county executive. As part of that, we hired Derek Johnson from San Luis Obispo, and he comes from a city. He was the city manager, and it's very common in a city that the city manager has a lot of authority, similar to the county executive. So we did all this before he came, but it's under his leadership, it also has taken on sort of a new life in looking at the organization as a whole and how to make it better. So you're going to hear a little bit more as we roll this out over the next year or two about One Marin initiative. And essentially that's an initiative that's looking at the whole county organization, trying to figure out under that new county executive, how do we want this organization to look, and how do we want it to work, and how do we want it to function, with the understanding that it needs to work well for our residents, it needs to be efficient for our residents, and how do we do that? And so currently, Community Development Agency, CDA, Department of Public Works, DPW, and the Marin Housing Authority are all going under reorganizational studies. So just look at them as to what they do. Do they function correctly? Do they meet the residents' objectives? Are the pieces all in place where they should be? One of the things that we're looking at, for example, procurement has been in the Department of Public Works for a long time. One of the things we're looking at is that the proper place for procurement for all the purchasing in the whole county to be in Public Works. I think we're gonna decide that's probably not where it should be. And so there'll be a lot of changes like that going on. But under this one Marin initiative, what's the purpose of it? It's restructuring and a thoughtful update of our leadership structure so that this county's work is easier to coordinate and experience. The purpose is to unite counties, cities, towns, and unincorporated communities around shared challenges and shared opportunities. It reflects our belief that each community is unique, but we're all connected. One Marin means we mean a government that listens, coordinates, and follows through. One that makes it easier for residents, businesses, and community partners to navigate local government and get results. So what should the residents expect from this? Briefly, the residents should expect clarity and accountability, ease of access, no wrong door. You go to any department in the county and they can assist you to find the right place to go to get your question answered. Unified service. We don't show up as separate departments. We show up as a county coordinated in our planning and unified in our response and focused on results that matter. Mary talked about the board priorities, and that's exactly what we're focusing on. But for too long, we've discovered and you discovered that county departments work in silos. And they often don't talk to the next department, even if it's something that involves them. It's a difficult conversation. Under this new structure, the county executive's office is going to take the leadership role in a lot of these major priorities, overseeing them much like a project manager oversees a project, making sure all the departments are working together, functioning well and efficiently and focused on the goal. And I think it's going to work well. It's in the early stages. There's a lot of shifting, a lot of changing going on, a lot of people moving around. It'll take a while to settle down, but I am encouraged that we're going to start responding better to what our residents need and things that our residents really want and what our communities need. So that's sort of the high level related to the county reorganization. But I wanted to also mention a couple things that one just occurred and the other is about to occur. We have a lot of grant opportunities at the county. Two major grant opportunities are the community grants, nonprofit grant program, and that's just finished. It was just reported in the IJ today that we granted $165 million to, $1.65 million. to 96 nonprofits recently. There was 177 applications though. There's $6.3 million to tell you what the needs are. These are almost all nonprofits that are doing work in our community for our communities. Some of the things that were funded were like small infrastructure projects, roofs for nonprofits that didn't have the dollars in their hands to replace a roof in their building, for example, outdoor activities, and senior transportation support, just to name a few. The IJ had a really good article about it today in the IJ if you want to read more about that. The other one that's just happened in the past 2 years, but it's going to have a cycle too, is participatory budgeting, or what we call PB. And a few years ago, 2 years ago, we allocated $2.5 million and made it available, and the public decided what it was spent on. We had a bunch of applications, mostly from nonprofits, on projects that they thought were important in their communities, and the whole county actually voted on it, and we allocated all $2.5 million to projects that the community wanted to see happen. It was the first time we've done the PB process, and we, at that time, also committed to another $2.5 million to do another process in a phase 2, and that's just rolling out in December. But we had 17,000 people cast votes in that process. 24 local processes came to life. They were across the canal, Marin City, Novato, and West Marin, and beyond, uplifting community ideas centered on youth empowerment, the arts, mental health, transportation. Each project received funding between $10,000 and $250,000, giving every community a chance to turn their vision into action. So as I said, we're accumulating the successes in that phase 1, and we're going to tell that story, but we're actually kicking off phase 2 end of this year, and those projects will be selected in 2026. If you don't mind, I just wanted to report, I always like to report success stories, not that I'm ignoring the ones that fail, because that we do have failures and we do need to do better, but I also feel that the success stories need to be celebrated. Tomorrow, Trust for Public Land will announce that they've closed the deal on the property at 630 Canal Street in the canal in East Santa Fe. And that's a project that was a collaborative project between the city of Santa Fe, Marin County Parks and Measure A, the Open Space Initiative, and MCF and some private donors to purchase that property that's been long sought after. It's referred to as the old boat works on the 630 Canal. Long sought after by the canal residents as a potential park and maybe future bridge connecting East Santa Fe to the high school and the rest of Santa Fe. And what I said yesterday when I was on a tour with a reporter from the Chronicle was, this is not only, thank you, this is not only connecting the canal to the rest of Santa Fe, this is connecting Santa Fe to the canal. And I think it's gonna be a wonderful project. It's gonna take a number of years to complete, but it's really exciting because all these projects start with having the land in your control. And we have, as of tomorrow, we have the land in our control. And then we can start the planning process with the city and the community. Marin Transit has done a couple expansion projects on Kerner Boulevard. They've actually purchased 2 properties down there and done some demolition and reestablished a paratransit maintenance facility and parking and a charging for a small fleet, even though the small fleet isn't quite yet there on the electric vehicles, but in the future they will be at some point. Then you may have heard that we also, Marin Transit, I say we because Mary and I are on that board, purchased a property at Francisco Boulevard, which will be a bus maintenance facility, and that'll be a full charging facility to meet our demands for electric vehicles in the future. And that's in the CEQA phase right now, and we're excited about seeing that moving forward and working with the city and the community on getting input on that. The last thing I just wanted to report on good news projects is the Bellum off-ramp, depending on the weather, will be wrapped up. The improvements on the off-ramp will be wrapped up either by the end of the year or early next year. And that's the extra lane on that off-ramp, which hopefully will relieve some of the backup on the freeway. And that's kind of a phase 1 of a multi-phase 580-101 multiple slate of projects. But good news is phase 1's getting done, and we think there's going to be some relief on the backup on the freeway from that. I'm going to stop there and let Mary go on.
All right, I'll talk about a couple other successes and jump around a little bit, and we will also love to answer your questions. So 2 projects that are coming forward. We recently obtained some state funding to support transitional age youth. So these are oftentimes kids coming out of foster care or maybe towards the end of, their youth, but not quite ready to live on their own yet. And with a partnership with Catholic Charities, we're going to be able to provide some transitional age youth housing for young boys. And then the 30 Joseph Court project is under construction. So this was an old San Rafael fire station. It's kind of behind, it's a short little cul-de-sac on the east side of the 101 in Terra Linda. School of Rock is on there now. It used to be a San Rafael Joe's.
Yeah.
And that old fire station is being turned into a project for 15 beds for folks who have both substance abuse and mental health issues. So one of the quagmires of government is we have had beds for folks who have substance use issues or mental health, but oftentimes the funding doesn't allow you to treat people with both. And so this will be up to 90-day stays for folks, for 15 beds for people to get treatment there. And that will be run by Buckaloo Programs. Buckaloo also has the detox facility out at off of McGinnis. So they really see this as a good opportunity. The detox facility is about 5 days. This, gives you a couple more months of really we don't have huge numbers in the county, but this was a service area we were really lacking. So that construction is underway, and that again will be paid for with a state grant that we secured. We will have our second reading next week on a tobacco policy. So we are joining other counties in passing kind of a two-part policy, which makes a minimum floor price for cigarettes of $12, and that increases
For one
like,
pack of cigarettes?
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
And it's, it's one of those things when it first came to us, I wondered like, who are we punishing here? But there is a lot of research that it actually does decrease the consumption of cigarettes. And part of that, we also tapped into and are banning the sale of vaping and, what do they call them? Heated tobacco products. And so that's in unincorporated Marin. You saw Ross also adopted it, and something similar as did Tiburon. And we wrote the county policy in the hopes that San Rafael, Novato, other jurisdictions can adopt it as well. And we're joining and will then have similar, San Francisco has done this, Sonoma County, San Mateo, Contra Costa have also done this. So really trying to address the youth use in particular of these products because they are highly concentrated and highly addictive, and how do we get them out of the hands of kids? We do acknowledge that kids can also get them through online and other social media platforms, so we're not fooling ourselves that we're gonna solve it. But we don't want to be the place where Sonoma and San Francisco kids come to buy them. We want to join in that partnership and hope to also ban those as well. And then sort of a fun item is this year, the County of Marin turns 175 years old.
Oh.
And so on Tuesday, we will be having a celebration, and I will give kudos to my aide, Crystal Martinez, who isn't here, but she really spent a lot of time pulling together a lot of pieces of the history of Marin, from agriculture to, and I know Fernando participated too, on the history of West Marin, how Marin was founded, the different families that have been important, and we will have sort of a resolution celebrating that and bringing different pieces of that celebration together. And part of that you will see starting right after Thanksgiving through the new year, where the Civic Center will be lit up with lights, and there's already some of them in place, which is kind of fun to see, but just really utilizing the Civic Center as a place to gather. The exhibit hall will have some holiday films a few nights. I have details on just the dates and times, or we can send you those. But again, building on the sense of community and the amazing Civic Center campus that we have that was a little tired looking, and it's starting to, our infrastructure is aging, and so we do have to put a little bit of money into making sure that it is here for the next generation. So we're looking forward to celebrating that 175th birthday.
When is that?
So a couple of things. There's going to be a series of events. So Tuesday we are celebrating it with a resolution of the history, which you can be there. We would love to have you there on Tuesday afternoon, or you can read it online. And then there are a couple events. The dates I will. Do you have the date? Julia knows everything.
So Monday, there's a lot of events, so it's tricky. On December 15th, which is a Monday, at the Marin Center Exhibit Hall and Fairgrounds, we're doing the 175th celebration. There will be a churro truck there, if that's what gets you there. And just celebration in general. You could submit a letter about what you love about Marin, and we're going to be collecting all of those. And it's also going to be a part of this year's Marin County Fair. So just, again, continuing the celebration of 175 years. And we'll send those details maybe to Amy, and she can share them.
We'll post it on our website.
There'll be a time capsule will be created, and an old fire truck, and crafts, and seasonal treats. So
Nice.
hope that you will join us for some of that. We have more going on. I'm going to turn it back to Supervisor Rodoni.
Thank you, Mary. So I was mentioning about the transition at the county, and we already have results in this, how this transition is going to be more beneficial. My office has been asking for at least 4 years for some quick way where people can complain about that pothole or that garbage that's left along the road or whatever. So within 6 weeks of hiring our new chief technology officer at the county, we rolled out the Fix It app, which is you can download on your phone and you report a problem that goes directly to people who deal with it and get it fixed. This was done again in 6 weeks, after us waiting a long time. And that's some of the advantages of having someone in the county executive office take the lead on the project and work with everyone involved, DPW, CDA, all the people that have to deal with the results of this. And it's been rolled out as a pilot only. Every district, every supervisor district has one area. Mine is San Geronimo, I believe yours is San Benicio.
Santa Benicia. So I know San Rafael does have a really great app, and so we're sort of on the heels of San Rafael's, but it has helped there, and we hope it will be helpful in the unincorporated areas as well.
Hopefully you will still answer the phone, because San Rafael does not answer their phones anymore. Don't make that hand at me, this is important.
So eventually this will be countywide, we hope, and will be integrated with the systems that the cities have too, so that one call can address all issues and the system figures out who responds to it ideally. So hopefully we're gonna get there. The other thing I wanted to mention was, you may or may not be aware that there's an East San Rafael Chamber group that's part of the San Rafael Chamber. That's quite an active group, very involved in my district of San Rafael. And a small fact that they're proud of is they generate over 60% of the sales tax in San Rafael. So they're quite a contributor to the San Rafael coffers. And I think they're also standing up and saying, we need more benefit from our contribution to the city. Very, very exciting group, involved in all sorts of nonprofit things. And they actually meet, I think monthly they meet also, and they bring in guests and invite guests in. So I just wanted to report that again. Good news story. Do you want to talk about slow?
We're gonna have to do questions pretty soon.
Yeah.
If you wanna go to question, we could
Okay.
talk about stuff
We'll
forever.
cover
If you
some of this,
wanna
I'm sure.
go to questions, we can kind of go through it that way.
Why don't we
Yeah,
go
make
ahead,
sure we-
Richard's gonna come on up and get
I could probably do it
from here, okay.
It's a small enough group. I live in unincorporated San Rafael. Are there any instances or situations when I need to go through the city of San Rafael before I call the county? If there's some stuff dumped out by the side of the road, do I need to know where the boundary line is to know who to call? If it spans, do I need to make 2 calls? You know, that kind of thing. And then a related question, can Marin County supervisors help San Rafael residents when multiple jurisdictions come into play, as in dealing with the water district, wildfire, city of San Rafael, et cetera? There are 2 bureaucracies that San Rafael residents need to deal with. And could you give us some guidance and some practical advice on how we manage that?
So I would just say, if you live in unincorporated San Rafael, Fernando, aide to Supervisor Rodoni, Julia Reinhardt, who's my aide, start with a phone call there, and they can really help navigate, and they will answer the phone and can help navigate that situation. If it's in unincorporated and it's a building permit, or it's a street or a road in the unincorporated San Rafael, that is, that we are the ones on point to respond to that. But I know there's near your house, Richard, there's some that are, one side of the street is unincorporated and one is incorporated, and when there's an issue that affects both, it can get a little bit complicated, and so just call and ask. That's what we are here for. And that's
So one of the phrases that was music to my ears was no wrong door. You
Yeah.
can't go in the
Oh,
wrong
yeah.
door.
That's right.
So if we call you and it is the wrong door, do we then need to back out and go to another door, or do you help refer that to the right place?
I'll take you to the right place.
I couldn't be happier to hear that.
Worm Hand's office.
All
So
right.
we
Okay, good.
And ultimately, hopefully, this is the doorway in and can address all those things. We'll sort out if it's a city street or a county street and make that contact. Hopefully
So
we'll
that
get
pilot is being implemented soon, and what's
It's
the
it's
target?
actually implemented now.
Yeah, and the
and
target for full implementation
I
is?
don't know, I haven't heard that yet. They really want to make sure it works well and that we're being responsive. I think initially, quite honestly, I think they were worried about being overwhelmed.
Yes.
But so far, it's not happened that way. I think it's been pretty steady flow of stuff. And they've been able to keep up with the workload and respond quickly and stuff. But ultimately, this will help. This is the no wrong door, and then the other no wrong door would be the supervisor aids,
Great.
or an email to us, describing what's going on, and then we'll make that the no wrong door and direct you where to go.
Thank you.
Because it's difficult sometimes to figure it out, especially with multiple agencies that you have
Yep,
to deal
it
with.
sure
and
is.
Jurisdictions, and then I try and explain it, and I tie myself in knots, because I go, well, it's very clear, the city's responsible for the roads, the garbage, the lights and stuff, and I go, uh-oh, but we do the jail. The county does the jail. There's one issue that, and then the county does health and human services, and mental health and behavioral health.
Right.
And there's overlap in the libraries, there's a county library in Corte Madera, so it's not so clear to understand, and that's where we can help out. We don't expect you to figure it all out on your own. Some of you will be able to just by, using the system and understanding it, but it's very complicated, so.
Great, thank you. 350 Marydale Road. Been a big topic of the news. I was on the front page and vastly misquoted.
Better you than me.
I know just how you feel, and I would return that sentiment. So, when the county joined with the city to announce this on October 15th at a press conference, did you know that the city had not had held any open public meetings on this and had not notified the neighborhood at all? This was the first that the neighborhood heard about this plan.
So there were a couple of not public meetings that were in closed session for both the city and the county before that time. And then it was my understanding that the city had done outreach a few days before that day to some of the adjoining neighbors.
I'm not sure about that second part, but if that happened, the city was not communicating to the neighborhood, so what do you think? It was, this is what's gonna happen. So a furor has developed, Marydale Road and the neighborhood around there has really escalated this. And there was an announcement today in the release of the agenda for the city council meeting, Santa Fe City Council meeting on Monday, that the announced vote on the 17th of whether or not to go ahead, the city vote is not going to happen on the 17th, it's been postponed. So the question I have is, on the supervisors meeting on the 18th, I believe that the vote for the county is scheduled for the 18th. Would you guys consider postponing that vote as well and letting the hopefully somewhat tardy but necessary process of dealing with the community happen and see maybe if you're voting on something different?
There's a lot of pieces to that question.
Yes,
And
there
I
are.
will say, I did read much of the city staff report between when it came out at 5 o'clock and coming here tonight, and I didn't see that the vote was delayed, so that's news to me, and I can't comment on that at all, because I have not heard that, this is the first I've heard it. So that's the
It
answer.
came out in their snapshot.
Oh, that they weren't gonna have the hearing, okay.
They publicized the agenda, and near the end of the agenda, it said, I think in bold print, that it was going to be a discussion
It's gonna
and
be
the vote
discussion.
would not be taken on the 17th.
Okay, I hadn't seen that, so I can't comment if I hadn't seen that. There were some more questions wrapped up in that.
Well, so what about it? I mean, there's a lot of
So
disappointment.
let me just share that there has been a lot of community outreach going on since the press conferences happened. There's been a significant amount. Now, whether people liked the format that it was in or not, we could debate what is the perfect format for everybody's voice to be heard and everybody to weigh in. I think that Supervisor Rodoni and I have been in all sorts of different formats, and different people like different formats. So we did have a Zoom format where, questions were answered in real time as they were submitted and answers were provided. There was a very robust in-person event last week at the JCC where a lot of questions were answered one-on-one between individuals across the board. I've been meeting and talking to people. I'm meeting with a group of Marydale folks tomorrow afternoon as well on site. So to say that no input has happened, I don't think is, a fair assessment. And I think when you read through the staff reports, the county staff report is here. I bet you haven't read it yet because it didn't just come out. I hadn't read it yet. The cities has come out, but really there's a lot of listening going on to what the community concerns are and really endeavoring to address those concerns.
So,
But the votes have not happened, and that's, people keep saying this is a done deal, it's already done by the time we found out about it. It's not done. It's not done until there's a vote, and it has to be voted on by both the city
So
and the counties, the
I
funding.
guess the question, and thank you for that.
Yeah,
The question really is one of process that brought us to the point where it was announced on October 15th. There is hope for transparency in government, sharing of ideas, not announcing what's going to happen, but including the community as the decisions are being considered and as the final plan is reached. And it seems that the San Rafael process was the opposite of transparency, that it was held close, that meetings were closed, and I agree with you, there's been a heck of a lot that's happened since October 15th and a lot of communication, but virtually nothing between the city and affected communities before that.
And I
Is
appreciate.
that too much to expect, to have that level of transparency?
Absolutely.
I think that, understanding why, under the Brown Act, we're allowed to deal with real property in closed session. There's a reason for that, is that, if someone finds out you're interested in a property, they could very easily purchase it, because once you're interested in a property, it could raise a lot of interest in it by outside investors who want to take advantage of that. That's kind of the intent of that. It's also a chance to have a discussion about a real property, in terms of, is it suitable for what the uses are you want to have on it and stuff, and not being public doing that. I've been through quite a few of these, and we've always been criticized about how it was done, and I don't have a better answer for you right here tonight. I hear what everyone's saying, that it's not as transparent as it could be, but I also understand the other side of it. If you get in the bidding war on a property you've identified that's really important for the county and the city, and this is an important property because homelessness in San Rafael is really difficult to deal with, and a lot of it actually in my district right now, in District 4, Mahone Path and Anderson. And it's been really challenging and really expensive for the public dollars to deal with. These places have proven successful just here in Marin. I have 2 in my district already, at Casa Buena in Corte Madera and 3301 Kerner Boulevard. Run correctly and managed correctly, they're very successful operations with very little problems. And I know that people don't sometimes have a lot of faith in government, but I think you're gonna hear, if we move forward with this project, there's a huge commitment to do security right, to have good managers on site, to hopefully eliminate problems, but at least manage problems as they come up. And I think, I just encourage the community to be open-minded, because this is really, really a difficult problem. And I know that there's a lot of things to worry about when new people are coming into the neighborhood that might have mental health issues and other issues. But I can tell you from my experience in the two home key projects I have in my district, and we're doing a shelter crisis in West Marin right now, to house 12 or 14 families. They're not proving to be as bad as people think they are, and in some cases they're much better than what people anticipated.
Supervisor,
And I think that-
you mentioned Belinda Vista too.
Yeah,
which is
that's right.
interim.
Yeah, we have an interim campground in Galena. It's the 20 families there from farm workers who were so poorly housed they couldn't stay where they were. And we had to do similar to a shelter crisis. Fortunately, the land trust already owned the land, but we moved forward very quickly on that. some of it in closed session, some of it getting permitting, expedited emergency permits. And quite honestly, it's still in a lawsuit. People are still, neighbors are still suing that it wasn't a proper process. We're hoping that it actually moves to permanent housing, which is the next phase of that plan, to actually build permanent housing in the property that they moved off of and house them permanently. But again, it's happening all over Marin in all sorts of communities. And like I say, from my perspective, it's been really successful, but the county and the city have to step up in making sure that it is successful and it doesn't impact the neighborhoods and that they're good neighbors. Casa Buena in Corte Madera is 18 units, it's pretty small. It's an old motel. Central Police tell me that they have less calls there now than they did when it was a motel. The community has adopted it and they're doing the landscaping and doing all the planning. Older people there are getting rides with the lady that has the bike taxi to the shopping center to pick up groceries. So they were very, very hesitant about having that location used. It took a while to convince them. I did go ahead with it, and they've now adopted it, and have fallen in love with the people there, and have fallen in love with the process there and the management there. So it can be successful, is my point. And I just hope you're open-minded enough to go through this process. Mary's right, now's the time we get the feedback from the public. But I think from my perspective, you have to remember this is a really important step for the city of Santa Fe to really house individuals that need to be housed properly. And the services need to come with that, the wraparound services. Mahone Creek is not a good choice, or having them on Anderson Drive is not a good choice when it's really expensive for the public dollars to deal with them in those locations because they're going to the emergency rooms, they're going to the jail, and they're not getting the services that they should be getting.
And there's police there all the time. I probably live closer to that than anybody here. And if you talk to the people from Sprouts, they're horrified, which is a bummer.
So we've got, at least according to the agenda, about 9 minutes left. There was a couple of questions on trees. Both San Rafael city efforts to have a tree canopy program and supporting services for what the tree canopy should look like in San Rafael, and questions about whether we could get to a Marin County tree master plan folding in sound ecology practices endorsed by Marin Wildlife Protection Agency and a collaborative effort between the city and the county and the cities for an overall ecological health, quality of life benefits for consistency among jurisdictions. So rather than have every Marin County town solve this issue by itself, is it possible to begin this kind of effort, this kind of initiative on a countywide level?
I can start if you want. It's always possible that the county could be the model, but each city would have to adopt that model.
Yep.
Because we don't have authority to say, that you need to do this. They need to adopt it. I think you identified MWPA as a good example of a model, but I've been involved in that organization since it started, and it took a lot of work to get the environmental groups together to come up with that. But it is a model. Would it work perfect for the cities or counties? It would have to be looked at. For example, the county has an overlay of coastal zone, which has another layer, and even MWPA has struggled with projects in the coastal zone. They're finally moving forward with some of those. So it may not be one model fits all because of the different jurisdictions we have to deal with, but I think it's possible that something at the county could be the instrument for everyone else to move forward. We just don't have it in our work plan right now, and our CDA work plan is really full at this point, and they're going through reorganization also. But again, we just have to know it's a priority for one of our communities or all our communities, and figure out what that priority is, and is it higher than everything else to get it on
So
the
it would
list.
be initiated at the community level or maybe
I think
one
you
or
have
more.
two choices here, is that the city initiated.
Yep.
And I don't know what their work plan looks like, or Mary and I and Brian have to work on our work plan, and see if we can prioritize it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
that would take more input, obviously, from all the communities in San Rafael, and this would be a good place to start, for sure. They'll see you represent most of those communities.
Thank you. What's the county doing to address sea level rise for vulnerable communities like the canal and Las Vegas?
They just walk by.
Skunk.
Oh,
Not at all, but
Yeah, it could be something small.
go ahead, yeah.
yeah, so, as you know, early on, the county through Baywave and C-Smart being on the coast, Baywave being on the bay side, did a lot of work identifying infrastructure that was at risk from sea level rise and climate change. We since then have taken on a process where we're hired a consultant and we're looking at what should the governance structure be around sea level rise, because we can't do it individually as a county, and the cities can't do it individually. We have to work together because
Yep.
sea level rise doesn't know boundaries. The water doesn't stop at the county boundaries, city boundaries. And so that's the process we're in now. And quite honestly, it's stalled out a little bit because we've had a lot of changeover in the county in terms of individuals who are responsible for that. And under this new organization that we're talking about, the county executive has actually just put out the announcement to hire the climate change director, who out of the county executive office is gonna lead all the other departments in the sea level rise discussion, including the governance discussion with all the cities that are involved. And we're meeting on a quarterly basis now with all the cities involved, including people from West Marin and unincorporated area, trying to figure out what this looks like. I was pushing this idea of a countywide governance a few years ago because I went to Sacramento and I heard about what San Mateo did, which has a countywide climate zone. And they've actually put some measures on the ballot to raise money to address some of those things. We're not quite there yet. We're falling a little bit behind. But early next year, we're really gonna restart this with a new climate director and the county executive office and move this forward. But there's gonna be a lot of hard choices because there's not enough money to do it all. So how do you figure out, what do we do and when do we do it and how do we do it? And I can tell you that our most vulnerable communities, like the canal, need to have a priority because they're gonna be impacted soon, if they're not already, with storm surge and stuff being impacted. And I mentioned the bridge, and just a sidetrack to that is, the bridge gives them another evacuation route out of the canal, which is a huge advantage that I didn't mention, but it's another advantage to having that second evacuation.
Another trailer trail.
So, there were a couple more questions that were submitted in advance, but I just wanted to see, has this discussion generated any questions for people who came out on this rainy night to attend the meeting? Anybody want to bring something up or comment something to attend? Yes.
I have a couple of things to bring up, and please, you don't need to answer them, I just need to say them. Let's start with DC3. I've been part of DC3 since forever, when Susan Adams was here. To this day, I have never heard from my person who's supposed to be representing me. I don't even know who they are. He definitely didn't know who they were. But that's okay, because it's just the norm. That's not okay to have as a norm. And I don't need to talk to this person. I'd probably eat their face if I saw them because they pissed me off and I'd have to get out of that realm. But it's important. And Santa Fe doesn't have that. Nothing, and nobody's doing anything about it. I just wanted to bring it up again. I don't blame you. Anybody in your position would have done the exact same thing. But it's sort of a joke in a way if you think about it, because nothing really happens.
Why don't we tell people what it is?
The disaster council, sorry, there's a job. When San Rafael lost all its employees doing disaster stuff, Susan Adams came up to me saying, why don't you come to our stuff? And I said, because I didn't know you had stuff.
So DC3 is the countywide disaster council that I'm actually the chair of. And I appreciate you bringing this up all the time. We are addressing the issue. The problem is because San Rafael has 3 supervisor districts, there's 3 different appointees to the DC3, 1 for each district. My District 4 appointee is in Bolinas. He doesn't even probably know that I have a piece of San Rafael in my district. So we're fixing that though, because we're gonna align the DC3 responsibilities with the fire district that is responsible for the
I'd
area.
like to be a part of that, just to,
Yeah.
to say
Well, you're
what
gonna
does
see
and
it, I
doesn't.
think, in a month or so when they redraft some of the,
Yeah,
some
I
of the
mean,
policies
I just
in
remember
DC3.
Susan saying to me, well, what did you think? I was like, you don't know what I wanna think, cause we should already know what's on that
Because
website.
it happens in Novato too, because I have a part of Novato too.
I heard, yeah,
But the Novato Fire District covers all of Novato, so we're just gonna direct the director or the district appointee for District 5, which is Novato, that you match up, not with the supervisor district, you match up with the fire district on your responsibilities. And that'll address that issue, it won't leave anyone out.
right, and I was oh God, I forget her name, she's in Nevada. Put me on a
Judy.
committee to hire somebody like Elaine. Well, I haven't seen Elaine forever, and so I don't know how that one worked out, but I know that she got whatever. But it's still, that to me was very important, that she actually saw that in me and said, well, you can do that. The other thing is the Civic Center, what they're doing there. Have you driven in the parking lot that they repaved where the farmer's market is? There's like nothing on the streets to let you know where to go, how to get out.
Oh, no arrows?
Nothing. There's like two lines for you to stay on your own side, basically, that's it.
That's something we can fix.
And then they've got all these things that eat your tires.
Oh.
I'll let somebody else go.
Yeah, thank you,
One
yeah.
more, yeah.
So, thank you. So my question is, I'm on the San Rafael Steering Committee for Sea Level Rise. And we've been working for the past 2 years, both to educate the canal community about what it is, and I'm sure you know we've had many
Great job,
events.
yeah.
But what I personally am wondering is, we have consultants that I'm sure that we've spent tons of money on, and you have consultants. And I don't understand why there's not more collaboration.
No, and that's what we're attempting to do. I can tell you that those consultants aren't duplicating anything, because our consultants are working on governance, the governance model, and your consultants are working on specific sea level rise
It's very
issues.
specific to the
Yeah.
canal.
And they, quite honestly, you're well ahead of the rest of the county. So that's part of the challenge, this countywide effort. How do we bring everyone together in a way that we don't penalize those well ahead, and allow people to catch up at the same time?
Where can we find out more about One Marin, your program to read?
So it's just kind of rolling out. You'll have to watch the county executive office and any releases.
Or newsletters.
Or our newsletter.
Okay.
We'll be talking about it, yeah.
I'm very curious about
Yeah.
how that's gonna work with all the different agencies and governments in the county.
Yeah.
How you're gonna work with Marin Water, North
Well, it's
Bottled
actually,
Water, all these agencies who have,
just to remind you, we're focusing on the county first to get it right, all the departments in the county.
okay,
Expanding it to all the districts, which there's 31 special districts in Marin. That's gonna be a bigger challenge, but it's something.
so your one door, or the no wrong door, that's just for the county, not
With the
including
exception,
cities.
it should be able to address those issues if it's a water issue, what water district it is, and then get you to the right connection. And our staff would do that if you had a water issue. If you didn't know if you're in Marin Municipal or North Marin, you called them about a water issue, they'd help you figure that out and then connect you to. We just have less authority over them, so we can't
Mhm.
demand that you respond to this in 5 days, but at the county, we can demand that the departments respond to something in 5 days, or fix it in 5 days, or whatever. That's the difference. So,
Okay.
if that's helpful.
So there was a question about the 2 traffic deaths that happened. San Rafael experienced a tragic death of 2 pedestrians crossing pedestrian crosswalks on high-volume, high-speed 2nd and 3rd Street corridors that serve East and West San Rafael. These accidents took place in San Rafael, and the San Rafael Police Department is investigating. Our neighborhood group has not been invited into discussion as a stakeholder. Is there a collaborative role for the county to play in making our town safer? So this is something that, again, we maybe are somewhat biased toward neighborhood participation, but the fact that we were not invited in to be part of the discussions is problematic for us. Is there a role the county can play?
And I think, so that was
Us
my-
meaning the Federation or
That
us
was,
meaning?
that was neighborhoods. That was my question. I was thinking east and west, Marin. You know,
Sure.
it's a corridor to all of our
Reach out to
neighborhoods.
So a
one
couple different things on that. So, an ongoing investigation, it's hard for anybody to weigh in during the middle of an ongoing investigation for a number of reasons. But the county really does not have a role at all in city-specific intersections. I mean, that is the city of San Rafael's Department of Public Works that controls their intersections. And I will say that San Rafael is leading the county, frankly, on adopting Vision Zero policies, on adopting a local road and safety plan to really look at, you know, the high incidence of traffic fatalities and pedestrian fatalities within the city. Where Supervisor Rodoni and I weigh in on this a little bit is through the Transportation Authority of Marin. And we sit on that along with the mayor and representatives from many of the jurisdictions around the county to really look at congestion management, but part of that is safety. And we have recently adopted a countywide transportation plan, really looking at what are those corridors, how do we move people through corridors, you know? San Rafael is blessed with two of those massive corridors, the 101 corridor and then the east-west corridor, and how do we make it safe for people to walk and bike through there? So we have the big planning documents, but frankly, it's those city public works that really has absolute control over those intersections. And I think where the best place to weigh in on that is frankly the City of San Rafael Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. That's where folks are looking at intersections and talking about these things the most.
And I would just add, Richard, that when tragedies happen like that, the traffic people have so many rules and guidelines that they need to deal with. It's not really a public conversation because they don't have a wide open choice of how they fix things. It's all within the rules that the federal government set, the state sets. And so it's really an engineering decision to do the best you can to make the correction. But once they make that decision, what are the choices? At least at the county, then they outreach to the community and say, these are what we can do in this intersection. Do you have a preference? Do you feel, and I think, I don't know if that's coming. I don't know if that's coming at the city.
Does the county weigh in at all with speed limits? Because I think that's
No.
ever.
And highly regulated, adjusting speed limits. Now with the new state law, though, there is some more flexibility about actually lowering them even below 25. We've done a few of those at the county.
Crazy.
But anyway, it's not a very public facing, it's more of an engineering approach to figure it out.
Yep.
But then they should go public and say, these are the things we can do.
Yeah, but they
What
don't.
do you think? And we do that at the
That's the
county.
part we're after.
Okay.
And we seem to be repeating this desire on a number of different issues. You know, do what you need to do internally, and then before you say, and this is the way it's gonna be, open it to the community.
Sure.
Maybe if there's some choices, there could be some community input.
Yeah. And I talked to Director Miller and say, we want to know what you're planning.
But to who?
Director Miller,
April.
DPW.
Oh, April,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Not one of them, by the way, lives in San Rafael.
Challenge.
Moving along, that's a
So
little bit,
they
that's a
are-
little bit
we are-
important.
Yeah.
There's one
It
more.
seems like we've been talking for a good long time about the new San Rafael Transit Center. Since SMART came through and the buses don't have room, et cetera. So it's going to be moved and it's going to be different. Would you be willing to weigh in on the proposed placemaking design for the new transit center? And if you find it compelling, will you support it? This is including maybe rebuilding the 1929 railroad depot for transit service support, a welcome center, restrooms, cafe, et cetera. It seems like it's been years since the discussions have happened. Does the county have any place in this, or is this a city decision? What's the county's, position on it?
I feel like I was in this very room maybe a year or so ago,
Right.
but maybe
Yeah.
longer on
Uh-huh.
to talking about the different design. I remember standing
Oh,
back
yes.
there with Bill
You were.
Carney looking at trees.
Yes.
Yes.
So I remember that, but you've got
So,
more relevant information
Yeah,
on this.
I don't have the most relevant information, but what I can tell you is that I think it did get stalled out a little bit during COVID, but that process is ongoing. I'm not sure where they're at in the CEQA process. I don't think they've quite finished that yet. Because I know some of the landowners who are being impacted are waiting to get offers and they can't do that until the CEQA process is done, including Bibbulon, who owns Whistle Stop Building.
Yep.
But I'm very supportive of that proposal. I think it was beautifully done. I think there were still some questions. The historical people in Santa Fe had a few issues that they wanted addressed. I think the city still had a few
Right,
issues.
that's really the question is, are you open to listening to people?
Definitely.
Particularly, this comes
definitely,
from Santa Fe Heritage,
There's
particularly about,
negotiations too going on with Great Rancheria.
yeah.
yes,
Exactly.
but
That's-
they've decided that there's nothing of significance, just
I
recently.
think they did just recently, I
Yeah.
think that, yeah.
Where are they
Okay.
planning on putting this now?
The depot itself?
Yeah.
Right across the street from where it is.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, so your answer is yes, you would be
Yes,
interested in?
No. And I'm on the
Even though
Golden Gate Bridge Board, so I've
Okay.
probably committed somewhat to this already, just to be honest, in going forward with the CEQA process, even though the CEQA is open to additional discussions
Okay.
and stuff. But yeah, it's something that's badly needed, and we're on the Marin Transit Board,
Mhm.
so that's really where we have direct input, because Marin Transit is one of the users of the center. And certainly with our collaboration with the city, we work with the city to make sure that they're happy with what's going on there and stuff. It's a big, big part of the city, obviously.
Yeah.
Big change, big part, important to the city for its economic vitality and stuff, so it's a big, big project. But it needs to be done because
Yeah.
it's really challenging there right now.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, I want to have a round of applause for us. As they remunerate, I'm on this board, I'm on that board, we work on this board, you understand, it's very special to get them here in the evening, so we thank you